You are running a race. You don't remember how you entered it, and you can't quite see the finish line, but you know with every fiber of your being that you must run. Everyone around you is running too. Some are faster, some are slower, but they all have the same look of desperate forward momentum in their eyes. The race is your life. The running is your ambition, your desires, your constant, relentless striving for more. You want a better job, so you run. You get it. For a fleeting moment, you catch your breath. But then you see the next milestone ahead, a promotion, a bigger salary, and you are running again. You want love, so you run. You find it. For a while, there is a sense of arrival, but soon it is replaced by the new project of maintaining the love, improving it, or the quiet fear of losing it. And so the race continues. You chase achievements, experiences, possessions. Each one promises to be the final destination, the place where you can finally stop and rest. And each one, upon arrival, reveals itself to be just another water station on an infinite track. The satisfaction is a mirage. The moment you reach it, it vanishes, replaced by a new thirst. Or worse, you stop for a moment and are overwhelmed not by peace, but by a profound, terrifying boredom, the feeling of a runner with no race to run. This is the fundamental, maddening paradox of human existence. We are creatures built for the chase, but we find no lasting peace in the capture. We live our lives like donkeys chasing a carrot on a stick, forever propelled forward by the promise of a satisfaction that is, by its very nature, designed to stay just out of reach. We believe the problem is that we haven't run fast enough, that we haven't reached the right destination yet. We tell ourselves, when I get X, then I'll be happy. But what if the problem isn't the destination? What if the very act of striving, wanting, and desiring is not the path to happiness, but the very source of our suffering? This is not a self-help platitude. This is a terrifying philosophical diagnosis. It is the cold, stark, and strangely liberating vision of the 19th century philosopher Arthur Schopenhauer, one of history's most brilliant and notorious pessimists. While other philosophies were busy constructing elaborate systems of purpose, progress, and divine meaning, Schopenhauer dared to look at the raw, unfiltered reality of existence and came to a chilling conclusion. The universe is not a rational, ordered place with a grand purpose. It is a blind, pointless, and insatiable striving, and we are its puppets. He proposed that beneath the world we see, the world of individual things, of people, trees, and stars, there is only one fundamental reality, a blind, irrational, ceaseless energy he called the will. The will is a kind of cosmic, metaphysical hunger. It has no goal, no purpose, no endgame. It simply wants, endlessly, and for no reason. And everything in existence, from a plant turning towards the sun, to you striving for your next promotion, is a manifestation of this single, cosmic, and ultimately futile striving. You are not the master of your desires. You are a temporary vessel for the will's pointless hunger. Your feeling of I want is not your own. It is the universe's pointless craving expressing itself through you. You strive for success, love, and survival, not because these things will bring you lasting peace, but because the will's only goal is to perpetuate itself, to continue the race. You are a cog in a machine that is running for the sake of running, producing nothing but its own continuation. This is Schopenhauer's great, unsettling question. We spend our lives desperately trying to find our meaning and purpose within the game. But what if the game itself is meaningless? What if our suffering is not a bug to be fixed, but the fundamental, unavoidable feature of a reality whose very essence is a state of perpetual, unsatisfied want? This is a profoundly dark vision. It seems to strip away all hope, all comfort, all motivation. But what if this radical pessimism is not a dead end, but a necessary starting point? What if by having the courage to look directly into the abyss of a meaningless world, we can discover a path that our relentless, naive optimism has blinded us to. What if the only way to find a kind of peace is to first accept that the race is rigged, the finish line is an illusion, and the only way to win is to stop running? What strange salvation did this master of despair find in the heart of his own dark philosophy? The hidden problem, according to Schopenhauer, is that we are living under a grand and tragic delusion. We believe ourselves to be rational individuals, consciously choosing our goals and directing our lives towards a state of lasting happiness. But this is a fiction, a comforting story our intellect tells itself to mask a terrifying reality. The hidden problem is that we are not in control. We are the puppets of a blind cosmic force, and the strings are our own desires. At the core of Schopenhauer's philosophy is the distinction between the world as representation and the world as will. The world as representation is the world we perceive through our senses and intellect, the world of objects, of space, time, and causality. It is the orderly, predictable, and seemingly rational world of science and everyday experience. But this, Schopenhauer argues, is merely the surface, a veil. The true, underlying reality, the thing in itself, is the will. The will is a singular, undifferentiated, and ceaseless force. It is not will in the sense of a conscious choice, but a blind, irrational striving, a kind of metaphysical hunger. It is the formless energy that animates everything in the universe. The force that causes a magnet to turn to the north, a crystal to form, a plant to grow, and an animal to hunt, is all one and the same, the will. In us, this blind, cosmic striving manifests as our desires, our emotions, our ambitions, everything we call our will. But it is not our will. We are merely a temporary objectification of the will. Our conscious intellect is a late evolutionary development, a tool that the will created in service of its own aims. The intellect, Schopenhauer says, is like a lame man who can see, riding on the shoulders of a blind giant. The giant is the will, powerful and unstoppable. The lame man is the intellect, able to see and create justifications, but ultimately carried along wherever the giant blindly stumbles. This is the philosophical root of our suffering. The will, by its very nature, is a state of endless striving, and striving is, by definition, a state of lack, of pain. We are in a constant state of deficiency. We want something, which is a form of suffering. We strive to get it, which is a form of suffering. And then what happens when we get it? Schopenhauer outlines two possibilities, both bleak. The first is that the satisfaction is fleeting, almost non-existent. The moment the desire is fulfilled, it is replaced by a new desire, a new lack, a new source of striving. The carrot is eaten, and a new one immediately appears further down the road. This guarantees that life swings like a pendulum, backwards and forwards between pain and boredom. The pain is the striving. The second, and perhaps worse outcome, is what happens if the will is temporarily quieted. Imagine you achieve all your goals. You have the money, the love, the status. The striving ceases. You might expect to feel peace. Instead, you are plunged into the second state, boredom, a terrifying existential ennui, a profound sense of meaninglessness. This boredom, for Schopenhauer, is one of the most direct proofs of his theory. It is the feeling of the will with nothing to will. It is the engine of the universe idling loudly in the terrifying silence of a fulfilled life. This is why lottery winners are often miserable, why retired titans of industry fall into depression. Their giant has been temporarily sedated, and the lame man on his shoulders is left to look out at a vast empty landscape with no direction. Our entire life is an oscillation between these two states of suffering. We are either in the pain of wanting or the pain of having nothing to want. Happiness, in this system, is a purely negative concept. It is not a positive state of being, but merely the temporary cessation of a particular pain or striving. It is the moment of relief when a toothache stops, a moment that is quickly forgotten as the background noise of other desires rushes back in. This vision is a direct assault on the optimistic humanism of the Enlightenment and the comforting narratives of most religions. Schopenhauer is telling us that there is no grand plan, no benevolent God, no arc of history bending towards justice. There is only the blind, pointless churning of the will. The universe is not hostile, it is worse, it is indifferent. It is a machine that produces beings whose very nature is to suffer for no reason at all. We are born with a deep thirst for meaning in a universe that is fundamentally meaningless. We are programmed to seek a lasting satisfaction that by the very laws of our existence can never be found. The hidden problem, then, is that our suffering is not an accident, it is our essence. We are living in a rigged game where the only two outcomes are the pain of the chase or the terror of the void. And we spend our lives frantically trying to convince ourselves that there is a third option, a secret level of the game called happiness, which is always just around the next corner. According to Schopenhauer, there is no next corner. The maze is the destination, and the first step towards any kind of liberation is to stop looking for an exit and to instead understand the architecture of the prison itself. Living as an unwitting puppet of the will doesn't just lead to a philosophical problem, it creates a life of quiet, frantic desperation. The unseen consequences of our failure to understand our own nature are written into the very fabric of our society and our personal experiences. We are a civilization of runners, endlessly chasing a horizon we can never reach, and the landscape we create in the process is one of competition, anxiety, and profound spiritual exhaustion. The first and most visible consequence is the creation of what can be called a hedonic society. Our entire modern economy is built on the Schopenhauerian pendulum of pain and boredom. It is a vast machine designed to constantly generate new desires, the pain of striving, and then offer temporary, unsatisfying solutions, the fleeting relief before boredom sets in. Advertising is the high priesthood of this religion. Its function is not to inform, but to make you feel a sense of lack. It points to a deficiency you didn't know you had in your appearance, your status, your lifestyle, and then presents a product as the momentary cure for that specific manufactured pain. Social media is this system's hyper-efficient delivery mechanism, a personalized IV drip of inadequacy, ensuring that the moment one striving is satisfied, 1,000 new ones are presented. We are kept in a perpetual state of wanting, because a truly content populace is an economic catastrophe. The consequence is a life of constant, low-grade dissatisfaction, a frantic pursuit of fleeting pleasures that never add up to a stable sense of well-being. The second consequence is the transformation of life into a relentless, zero-sum competition. If the will's nature is to strive and overcome, and we are all individual manifestations of this same will, then we are inevitably pitted against each other. My success, my acquisition of a scarce resource, whether it's a promotion, a desirable partner, or social status, is often perceived as your loss. Schopenhauer had a bleak view of human nature, seeing envy, malice, and cruelty not as aberrations but as the natural expression of an egoistic will trying to assert its dominance. This creates a society characterized by what he called the war of all against all. We see this in our hyper-competitive work cultures, our polarized political discourse, and the social comparison that runs rampant online. We are constantly measuring ourselves against others, feeling a secret, shameful pleasure in their failures and a bit of envy at their successes.
This constant conflict is exhausting. It erodes our capacity for genuine empathy and compassion, trapping us in the narrow, paranoid prison of our own ego, which is itself just a focal point for the will's blind striving. The third, and perhaps most tragic consequence, is the utter trivialization of our concept of a meaningful life. Because we are unable to find lasting satisfaction, we begin to chase intensity for its own sake. We mistake the thrill of the chase for happiness. We become addicted to novelty, to drama, to the constant stimulation of new goals, new experiences, new distractions. We believe a good life is a busy life, a life full of accomplishments to be listed on a resume or experiences to be curated into a compelling Instagram grid. But this is a profound confusion. It is like a starving man who, unable to find nourishing food, becomes addicted to the fleeting, intense flavor of spices. The intensity provides a temporary distraction from the underlying hunger, but it offers no real sustenance. We become experience junkies, pursuing a bucket list of achievements that leave us feeling hollow once they are checked off. We have confused the motion of the pendulum for forward progress, not realizing that for all our frantic swinging, we are not actually going anywhere. Ultimately, this leads to a confrontation with the profound meaninglessness that Schopenhauer identified. For many, this comes in midlife. You have run the race, you have achieved the goals, you have acquired the things you were told would bring you peace, and yet the feeling of lack remains. The boredom sets in. This is the classic midlife crisis. It is the terrifying moment when the lame man of the intellect realizes that the blind giant he has been riding has simply been stumbling in circles. The narratives of success and happiness that society provided are revealed to be a lie. This can lead to a profound despair, a nihilistic sense that if this isn't the answer, then there is no answer. The unseen consequences have led us here. We are rich in distractions, but poor in meaning. We are connected by technology, but separated by competition. We are masters of achieving goals, but we are slaves to the meaningless process of goal setting itself. We have built a world that is a perfect reflection of the will's frantic, meaningless nature, and we are left in the quiet moments with the terrifying silence of its ultimate, purposeless reality. This is the dark night of the soul that Schopenhauer's philosophy forces us to enter. But for him, it is only in this absolute darkness that a different kind of light can be seen. To be confronted with the stark, comfortless reality of Schopenhauer's world is to stand at a precipice. The initial reaction is despair. If life is a pointless oscillation between pain and boredom, driven by a blind cosmic force, what is the point of anything? But for Schopenhauer, this moment of profound pessimism is not an end point. It is the necessary starting point for a radical and counterintuitive form of salvation. The rebellion is not in trying to win the race, but in a quiet, profound, and world-denying act of walking off the track altogether. The first and most crucial act of rebellion is the denial of the will to live. This is a deeply misunderstood concept. It is not about suicide or a grim, life-hating asceticism. It is about a profound internal shift in identification. You must, through deep insight, recognize the will within you for what it is, the source of all your suffering. You must see that your desires, your ambitions, your very ego are not your true self, but merely the machinations of this blind, striving force. The rebellion is to consciously disidentify with it. It is to go from being the puppet jerked around by the strings of desire to becoming a quiet, detached observer of the puppet show.
This is a rebellion against your very biology. The will screams for you to strive, to compete, to reproduce, to assert your ego. The denial of the will is to meet this internal scream not with struggle, but with a quiet, knowing no. It is to starve the giant of its fuel. You do this by systematically quieting the desires that feed it. This involves a form of asceticism,
not necessarily in the external sense of giving up all possessions, but in the internal sense of detaching from your craving for them. You can still live in the world, but you must learn to not be of the will. You eat, but you are not a glutton. You work, but you are not consumed by ambition. You love, but you are not destroyed by attachment. You are a ghost at the banquet of life, participating in its rituals, but no longer enslaved by its appetites. The second act of this rebellion is the cultivation of a different way of knowing the world. Our normal mode of perception, ruled by the intellect, is always in service of the will. We look at the world and see not what it is, but what it is for us. We see a forest as a source of lumber, a river as a source of power, another person as a potential partner, rival, or tool. We are constantly asking, what can this do for me? This is the perception of a hungry ego. Schopenhauer believed there was another, higher form of knowledge, aesthetic contemplation. When you have a truly aesthetic experience, when you are lost in a piece of music, captivated by a beautiful painting, or awestruck by the sublime power of a natural landscape, something miraculous happens. For a brief moment, you cease to be a striving, willing individual. Your ego dissolves. You are no longer you looking at a sunset. You become the pure, will-less subject of knowing, and the sunset becomes a pure, timeless idea. In that moment, the relentless ticking of the clock of cause and effect stops. The frantic grasping of the will is silenced. You are, for a fleeting instant, free. Schopenhauer called art the flower of life. Its purpose is to provide these brief, blissful moments of respite from the prison of the will. The rebellion, therefore, involves actively seeking out these experiences. It means engaging with art and nature, not as a form of entertainment or distraction, but as a spiritual practice, a form of temporary salvation. The third and most profound act of rebellion is the practice of compassion. If we are all just individual, temporary manifestations of the same single suffering will, then the distinction between me and you is, on a metaphysical level, an illusion. The ego's belief in its own separateness is the great lie. True compassion for Schopenhauer arises from the intuitive recognition of this truth. It is the moment you look at another suffering being, human or animal, and realize, this too is I. You see that their pain and your pain are not separate phenomena. They are both expressions of the same universal, cosmic suffering. This insight shatters the egoistic striving that pits us against each other. How can you harm another when you realize their inner nature is identical to your own? How can you feel envy when you see that their success is just another temporary distraction from the same underlying suffering you both share? The practice of compassion is the ultimate denial of the will. The will is pure egoism. Compassion is pure selflessness. By acting with genuine, universal kindness, you are acting in direct opposition to your own programming. You are consciously choosing to negate the striving of the will within you for the sake of alleviating the suffering of the will in another. This, for Schopenhauer, is the highest form of ethical and spiritual attainment. It is the practical expression of the metaphysical truth that we are all one. This rebellion is a quiet and lonely one. It offers no grand victories, no societal rewards, no promise of a heavenly afterlife. It is a path of renunciation, of letting go. It is the art of transforming your life from a frantic tragedy into a kind of serene, contemplative, and compassionate stillness. It is the difficult, counterintuitive journey from the noise of the world to the silence of the self. And it is the only path that leads to the final, strange, and peaceful truth that lies at the heart of Schopenhauer's dark vision. You have embarked upon the quiet rebellion. You have started to see the blind, striving will within you, not as your true self, but as a relentless cosmic force to be observed and quieted. You have sought refuge in the will-less moments of aesthetic contemplation, finding temporary freedom in the presence of art and nature. You have begun to practice a deep, universal compassion, rooted in the metaphysical insight that the suffering of others is, in its essence, your own. You have, in short, begun the difficult process of turning down the volume of the world. But this path of denial and renunciation does not lead to an empty void. It leads to the final, most paradoxical, and, for Schopenhauer, most sacred realization of all. The ultimate truth is not that life is meaningless. It is that the meaning we are programmed to seek, the meaning found in striving, achieving, and satisfying desire, is the illusion. The true meaning, if it can be called that, is found in the complete and total negation of that entire paradigm. The final destination is not a place of happiness, but a state of peace so profound that from our normal, striving perspective, it looks like nothing. This is the state that Schopenhauer, borrowing from Eastern traditions, identified with nirvana. This is not the pop culture idea of a blissful heaven. It is, in its most literal translation, a blowing out or extinguishing. It is the complete and final silencing of the will. It is the end of the pendulum's swing. It is the moment the blind giant finally lies down and is still. The lame man of the intellect, who has spent his entire existence chattering, justifying, and planning, finally falls silent. There is nothing left to say, nothing left to want, nothing left to do. What is this state? Schopenhauer is clear. We cannot truly comprehend it. Our language, our intellect, our very consciousness are all tools of the will. They are designed to operate within the world of representation, the world of striving and causality. Trying to describe a state in which the will is entirely absent is like trying to describe the color blue to a person born blind. From our perspective, a perspective defined by endless motion, this absolute stillness can only be conceived of as a negation. We can only define it by what it is not. It is not pain, it is not boredom, it is not desire, it is not individuality, it is not the world. And so Schopenhauer concludes his magnum opus, The World as Will and Representation, with one of the most famous and chilling lines in all philosophy. To one who has turned and denied the will, this very real world of ours, with all its suns and galaxies, is nothing. This is the final, profound inversion. The entire time you
look back at the runner on the infinite track. The ultimate truth is that the race itself is a hallucination. There is no track. There is no finish line. There is no prize. There is only the frantic, self-perpetuating motion of the run. And the final freedom is not in winning, but in the simple, world-shattering realization that you can just stop. You can stop running. In that moment of stopping, the entire world of the race, the competitors, the milestones, the desperation vanishes. It becomes nothing. What is left? Not an empty void, but a profound stillness, a peace that the runner, in his frantic motion, could never have imagined. This is not a philosophy of nihilism, which declares that because life has no meaning, nothing matters. It is a philosophy of quietism. It declares that because the frantic pursuit of meaning is the source of suffering, the only thing that matters is finding the quiet, compassionate stillness that lies beyond it. Schopenhauer's final message is a strange and deeply challenging form of hope. He offers no promise of a better world, no guarantee of personal happiness, no divine reward. He offers only a single, narrow, and difficult path out of the fire. The path is to recognize the flame of wanting within you as the source of all your burns, and to slowly, patiently, and compassionately allow it to be extinguished. The final meaning is found not in adding anything to your life, but in the courageous act of becoming nothing. And in that sacred, silent nothingness, to find everything.